I think the biggest thing that I would tell myself is that you don't owe anything to anybody. You don't have to have a baby shower. You don't have to do a gender reveal. You don't have to do anything that makes you uncomfortable. And there are enough things that you're going to have to navigate during PAL that you are uncomfortable with, but you have to do it anyways. So some of the extra things that society kind of makes it seem like are must-dos, you don't owe anybody that. You really have to just do what is best for you.
Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week, you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristen Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about Mother Like No Other, a special community for women who are navigating the tender season of life after loss. Inside Mother Like No Other, you'll find a warm, supportive space of moms who truly get it, plus practical tools to help you through the hard days. You'll have access to a private online community where you can connect with me, an experienced doula, and other moms navigating the same journey. Each month, we gather for live workshops to connect and learn, covering topics like supporting your fertility journey, grounding strategies, self-advocacy, and ways to nurture your mind, body, and soul. We also bring in guest speakers to share their expertise and inspiration. The best part? It's only $22 a month. No long-term commitment, just real support when you need it most. If you're ready to feel more grounded, connected, and held through this season, come join us at thedoulalife.ca/mother. You do not have to go through this journey alone. And by joining us inside Mother Like No Other, you won't have to.
Today on The Rainbow Connection, I'm sitting down with Laurel Schaffman, a mom from Connecticut who carries both the deep ache of losing her son Miles and the quiet, hard-earned joy of finally welcoming her rainbow baby, Theo. Laurel shares with us about the sudden growth restriction diagnosis, a traumatic turn her pregnancy took at 24 weeks, and the 2 very sacred days in the NICU that changed her life forever. She brings us into the raw, disorienting days of her early grief and the longing to try again, and the fearful, carefully monitored journey of her courageous pregnancy after loss. Laurel also shares the redemptive birth of her second son, Theo, a moment filled with relief, tears, and the realization that healing can coexist alongside heartbreak. This is a story about love, about courage, and about the way both her boys continue to shape the beautiful, present, and ever so grateful mother she is today. We really dive into gratitude and how loss can really change your perspective and appreciation for pretty much everything, right? Anyways, enough from me. Now let's hear from Laurel.
Hello, and welcome to the Rainbow Connection. Today, I'm with Laurel. Laurel, thanks so much for being here. I'm so happy to have you on today.
Thank you for creating such a great platform for people to come and be on.
I'm really looking forward to chatting. I'm so happy that you're here. Laurel's going to share 2 stories with us today, actually. One about her angel baby and one about her rainbow baby. But before we dive into that conversation, Laurel, why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself?
So I am born and raised from Connecticut. I am a teacher, an elementary ed teacher, and a mom. I have my angel baby, Miles, and my earth baby, Theo. Miles is 2 and Theo is 8 months.
Love to hear about both of those precious little ones. So why don't you start wherever you feel like you want to start?
Sure. So Miles was a little bit of a surprise. We had just gotten engaged in August, and by November found out we were pregnant. And it was exciting. It was the beginning of a pregnancy I'd kind of always envisioned. I've always wanted to be a mom. So I did the whole cute matching Old Navy pajamas because I'd found out on Black Friday, and planned how we were going to tell our families, make a whole weekend of it. So I was really, really excited. And we were waiting until the 13-week mark to tell our families. We had gone in on Friday for an ultrasound and had only had a dating ultrasound up to that point, so I didn't have much to base it off of, but I just remember the ultrasound tech kept like going over a certain part and wasn't sharing anything. And I got like a weird feeling, but I didn't know because I was new to this. And I was trying to ask questions, and she's like, well, doctor will get back to you like 24 to 48 hours. And I was like, okay, but it's Friday. We were going to start telling people tonight. Got really lucky, and an OB I'd never met before ended up calling me an hour or two later, and she had read the results and wanted to share before the weekend. And right then I was like, I'm just so appreciative of you. I have Crohn's disease and have had to fight really hard to like get that diagnosis. And so I've dealt with doctors before who've been very dismissive or put you off because it's the weekend. And just right there, the fact that she was calling on a Friday after hours, I was like, you're special right there. And she shared that the nuchal translucency was high. It was 3.07, and like 3 is kind of the threshold. So I didn't really know what that meant. She wanted me to go into MFM on Monday, but in my head, I'm like 3.07, like it's 0.07.
Yeah, it's so minuscule.
Yeah. How big of a deal could it be? And I remember asking, like, we're about to tell people this weekend, like, would you do that? And she's like, I don't know. Honestly, I would wait. And in my head, I was like, well, I think if something were to happen, I need people to know so that I'm not going through this alone. I've read so many stories about people who've gone through their miscarriages in silence. And I didn't really know what was to come, but I knew I needed support. So we proceeded and kind of just put that out of mind. Monday at our MFM, the nuchal actually had gone down to 2.7. So there's just such a discrepancy, but it was still considered high. So they suggested we run cell-free DNA. And I'd already done like the initial panel, which I was negative or
Low risk
for. But they said, let's do a more extensive panel. And I'm all about being proactive, like run what you need to run. Let's get answers. So ran the tests. Everything is normal. Great. All good. They wanted to have me come in early for an anatomy scan at 16 weeks and then do an echo at 20. Again, great. Like more times to see the baby. I'm on board. And at the 20-week echo, baby was looking great. The anatomy was great. Heart was great. Everything was strong. But there was always like a but. And this but was that baby was in the 7th percentile. And no one really knew why. I kept saying like, well, is it just a peanut? Like, do I just have a little baby? And they're like, well, we just have to wait and see because if baby keeps growing and continues to stay in the 7th percentile, like that's fine. But if baby starts going down in the percentiles, then there's something more to it. And I kind of just like sat with it for a little bit. And the more I kept thinking, I was like, I want to know why. Like, do I need to eat more protein? Do I need to drink more water? Like,
Sure.
What's going on? Ended up reaching back out to the doctor that had originally called me about my nuchal results and talked through it with her. She ended up talking to MFM and she recommended doing an amnio or at least talking with a genetic counselor. So we talked, figured knowledge is power. Results have been coming back great, and just to really rule everything out. So ended up doing an amnio around 20 weeks. Longest 17 days ever waiting for those results. Everything was fine. Nothing was coming up. So we were like, we just have a little baby. And
like, are you and your husband smaller?
He's tall.
Okay.
I'm like 5'4". He's over 6, but you never know. I mean, babies can be such a different part of you.
Yeah, there's such a huge variation of normal, right, in terms of size.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we were scheduled for a follow-up 3 weeks later, and I'm feeling great. All results are normal, like, um, and I was so positive to the point that before we left, I threw my wallet in the car. I'd like thought to at least grab my ID and insurance, but I threw my wallet in the car and some returns. It was the start of April break. So as soon as we got back from the appointment, I was hitting the road, kick off my April break, do some shopping, all that. We got to the appointment and they there was just a lot of scanning. And doctor came in pretty quickly and said that there was severe fetal growth restriction. Baby was in the less than 1 percentile, less than first percentile. My amniotic fluid was really low, and that there was some umbilical Doppler stuff that was really worrisome to me. So there's a lot of talk about there's an increased risk of stillbirth, placenta's not being sufficient, and they admitted me on the spot. And they pretty much were like, you're not going anywhere until this baby comes. And at that point, I was a day shy of 24 weeks. And it just, I don't even really remember. I remember going into the room and just like arms out, poke, prod, whatever you need to do. Really couldn't form any questions, just in absolute shock. I remember at one point being like, I really need my mom. So he called her and she was there, and the two of them were huge advocates for me because that first day I was just beside myself. I wasn't expecting anything. Like when you're going after or constantly getting positive results, you think things are fine, and never heard anything to the contrary. I didn't even know nuchal translucency at 13 weeks was an initial marker of something going on. And
well, and sometimes those results mean nothing, right? Like
right.
It sounded like you got 2 different results too, right? Because they're so small at that time. Like those measurements can be really difficult to even take.
And all the cell-free DNA was fine. And echo was like, anatomy was great. He was just small. So that was a Friday. And then Wednesday, it was just a different day. We started to get into a little bit of a hospital rhythm. But Wednesday, I just remember they kept having to come in to adjust the monitor because I was on constant monitors. And it was something like every time I sneezed or coughed, they needed to adjust the monitor because baby was so small. It was hard to really find him in there. And that night, middle of the night, all of a sudden, a nurse came in with the magnesium sulfate bag. And I just knew that was like bad news. That first day, they really ran through everything. They'd given me an initial shot of steroids, and they'd really said that if you got this magnesium, like delivery is imminent. And I was like, the woman walked in and I was like, no. Like I can't, not now. He's so little. And she was like, well, we're going to try this at this point. Maybe we won't end up needing to do delivery, but like we really need to be prepared just in case. There are a lot of decelerations with his heart, a lot of they're very, very variable, very deep. And they were monitoring me from outside. So I didn't fully know how often they were happening because they weren't constantly coming in. And after the magnesium, things just still weren't great. And baby was just at a greater risk. And they were really concerned about placenta failure. So they recommended delivery.
At how many weeks were you at this point? Were you 24 weeks yet?
24, yeah. 24 and 4. And we talked a lot about it. We kept having more and more doctors come in, answer questions. We both agreed we did not want an emergency situation where baby or I were at risk. So we decided to proceed. And we pretty much knew when we were admitted that at this point it would likely be a C-section if it was early at all, because baby was just so small.
Now, how did it feel to make that decision?
It felt like a life sentence because I felt like if we waited, we didn't know. And if we did it too early, he was so little. You sit there that first day, NICU comes in, they run through every percentile risk for every week. And we were just hoping to get to 28. And it just felt like such a life sentence. for so many reasons. Like, our lives were going to change. This baby would change. Hopefully the baby would be here. We really didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew he was that time doing great. And we really we wanted to be safe. So we proceeded. It was so quick. We waited until a shift change. We wanted all the doctors like there, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed,
Fresh.
fresh. The OB that was on call that night ended up staying, which was amazing. So we had the new OB came in and delivered, but the other OB who was talking us through, she ended up staying and being another support for us, which was great. But it happened so quick. I remember being like, can I just like brush my teeth? Like, what is going on? And then they had me walk, which I was shocked. I didn't know you like would walk to a C-section. And I just remember feeling like such a walk of shame. Like, I just felt I was so sorry. And I remember saying that to Josh before I left, like, I'm just so sorry. And he's like, there's nothing to be sorry about. Like, we're going to go meet our baby. But it did feel like this walk of shame to just walk down the hallway into you don't know what. I hadn't done any baby books or anything, so I didn't really know what to expect from a C-section. It all came so fast. He was delivered. I don't really remember much from the delivery. I just know he was put in a bag and brought in the back, and the OB who had been working overnight with us, she went and took some pictures and showed us, and, he had his eye open and tongue out, and I was like, he looks so like, what a jokester. He's just pulling our leg, like, he's just making his grand entrance. All the ultrasounds, he was really hard for the people to photograph, like, and we joked, like, neither of us are really photo people, like, we like to be hidden. Like, me doing a podcast is really surprising, like, I don't have that personality, and so we're like, that baby's just us. But he was small, he wasn't even a pound, and we were able to first see him on the way to postpartum, and he just was so small. And that kind of started our very brief NICU journey. Fortunately, he only was earthside for 2 days, and then he passed on the 14th. So we had 2 days with him, not nearly long enough, but it was just absolute trauma, and not anything you ever imagine, not anything you hear about. Like, I've had people in my life that have gone through miscarriage, but I've never had people have a baby who then a few days later passes away. And it was just traumatic, absolutely traumatic.
What were those 2 days like for you guys? Like, did you get to spend time with him? Did you get to hold him ever? What was that like?
We didn't get to hold him until he passed away. And he was we were able to visit him. That first day, they waited until my catheter was out and I could be like sat up in a wheelchair. So that felt like a long time. Being wheeled down and getting to like see him was great, but then I just felt like we were waiting for nighttime to come so that I would get the clear to go. And then the next day we visited a couple of times, but between how many times you're getting checked on as the mother and all the people that are coming in, they're talking about pumping, and just all this stuff is just getting thrown at you. And so it just didn't feel like there was not enough time at all.
Just so overwhelming. Like, and he just had major surgery.
Surgery. I remember that night being down there and being in so much pain just because I had to pee. Like, I just couldn't get comfortable, and I just remember being like, I have to go. Like, I sitting up is so uncomfortable for me right now, and I felt terrible for that because I wish I'd been able to like push through my pain to be there for him, but I just couldn't. My pain was so grand, and it was, I think, you're not expecting it. So not that you can ever really prepare for C-section level pain, but
It's
you just
shocking on it. And
shocking.
you have nothing to feel guilty about, because I remember when I had a C-section with my daughter, and when I stood up, I was like, whoa, I did not expect it to feel like this. And as a doula, it was really good
Yeah,
information for me to have to understand, my clients better. But it is shocking. People say C-section is the easier route, and it is not. It is
it's not.
hardcore.
Well, I remember 2 days later when the nurses came in and they were like, you need to go to the NICU now. Like how quickly I got into that wheelchair.
I
And
bet.
then once we had said our goodbyes, we knew we needed to tell family, but like this was an in-person thing. So I had asked my parents if one of them could come hang out with me while Josh went to go get some fresh air. We just wanted it very generic. And when my mom came, I was like, I can't get out of this room quick enough. I was like, let's go walk to Panera. And shockingly, the nurses let me walk all the way downstairs to Panera. But I was like, I can't be treated like this patient right now. Like it's hard enough to walk back to or be wheeled back to your room. And now all of a sudden you have a butterfly sticker on your door. It's just so glaring, it feels like. So I was like, I just can't do that. Like, I want to be just a normal person at this point. That point, I don't think I know I was in just grief mode. I wasn't in grief over a child loss mode. I would just my own grief, and I needed to pretend I wasn't a mom for 2 seconds and go walk and get a smoothie.
Yeah, you needed some respite for just a
Yes.
minute.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what happened next? What did that look like for you guys?
It just a lot of unknowns. The doctors were like, we can discharge you tonight if you want. And I really did. I didn't want to be there, but because we weren't married, we needed a notary to confirm that he was the father. So we kind of had to stick it out until a notary was present the next day. And we signed what we needed to sign, and we left on a Saturday, I think. Kind of got settled at home. I actually went, his parents live in the town I teach in, and when he went to tell his parents, I asked if he would go to my school and get the weekend key, because I knew we needed to go in. Like, I wasn't prepared to be out, and I wanted to, for my sanity, feel like something was able to be tied together. So we went to my school and did what we needed to do to kind of, so I could feel like I could breathe a little bit and not have to think about that. And then we just tried to navigate life. Monday was a lot of phone calls to funeral homes to learn about cremation and costs and processes and forms to fill out. And it was so startling to me how many places didn't really know what processes were and for infants and costs. And I was so appreciative of that, because it means they don't do this daily. But it was still it was so hard to have to make those calls, but I felt like I had to. Like, I felt like I was robbed so much of the mothering piece that this felt like a mother job. The grandmas offered to make these calls, and I was like, no, I need to do this. This is how I can show up for him. And even for healthcare insurance was a huge obstacle. And I felt like I was on the phone with them constantly. And it was so painful. And again, people offered to make those calls, and I was like, no, I have so few opportunities to do stuff where I get to advocate for my son. I get to say his name. I get to do parent things. Like, parents take care of their child's insurance. Parents figure out how their child will be comfortable. And this is how I had to show up.
They do the hard things.
They do the hard things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really brave. Now, did you ever have a social worker come to your hospital room?
We did.
Okay.
I had been seeing a therapist before, and I just really trusted that. And that was kind of the mode I wanted to go for as far as counsel. Um,
Well, I asked just because with the fact that you called all the funeral homes and was finding all that information, sometimes hospitals have a care worker that will come into your room and kind of hold your hand through that process, just so you're not having to call people and have that conversation where they don't know what you're talking about and don't have the
they did
information.
send somebody in, but I don't know if I just wasn't ready to hear it, or it was a lot of information. It was, these are groups you can call. These are people that help to cover costs of services, but it wasn't like, we'll make the calls for you, and I was like, if I can do all this research myself, if anything, it'll keep me busy to do it myself.
I mean, I totally understand the feeling of like, I'm in the hospital, I can't have this conversation, I need to leave, and then I'm just going to do it when
Yeah,
I need to do it. That's a lot.
it's a lot.
Mhm. So, Laurel, I would be really interested to hear. I find very often, with lost moms and the moms I have conversations with, and myself as well, after experiencing loss and losing our baby, we kind of fit into like two camps. And one of them is, I need some really long periods of grieving. I need to just sit with this for a while. And then there's the other side where you're like, I need to get pregnant like yesterday. Where did you fit in, and what did it look like when you guys decided to try to get pregnant again?
I was definitely in the I need to get pregnant yesterday. And I felt like I couldn't say that out loud to anybody, because I felt like people would just think I was jumping over my grief or not honoring Miles. But I was meant to be a mother. I was meant to also mother as a verb. And this just felt, being so close, that I just knew that more than anything, this is what I was meant to do. And I remember Googling, like, how long do I have to wait? And gets kind of mixed answers on Google. And then going to my follow-up, and the doctor was like, yeah, you need to wait at least 18 months between delivery. I had a classical C-section, so it was made very clear from the beginning that future deliveries would have to be C-section as well. And it
Now,
all
was there a reason why they did classical?
He was so small, and where he was positioned, they wouldn't have been able to fully get him out safely. So I was like, okay, 18 months, that feels like an eternity. We ended up going to a few different MFMs for consult, because we just never got answers, and we both wanted answers badly. I think it's so hard to not have a reason why. And I kept asking, like, how long? And they continued to say, so one of the doctors like, 18 to 24 months. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
Eternity. You
forever.
might as well just tell me an eternity.
Yes.
Now, did they ever, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did they ever send your placenta off to pathology or anything?
Yeah. And there was some calcification, but it was a very, very small placenta.
Okay.
So from the beginning, and that's something I didn't know. I didn't know, like, placentas are different. I just thought a placenta was a placenta. So it was very small, but there was nothing really remarkable about it. Low calcification, like nothing that pinpointed what could have been.
Okay.
So when we also knew I'd have to deliver early, because I couldn't risk rupturing because of that vertical cut. So you have to do the math like a little bit differently than a full 40-week pregnancy.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
I have lots of questions for you today. When you chose to have a cesarean, Did they explain to you that you're going to have a classical cut? Did they
Yes.
explain what that meant for future pregnancies?
Yeah.
Wow, when I think back to the question I asked you about making that decision, that just makes that decision even grander. That must have been remarkable and such an impossible decision to make. And
It does, because that's something that stays with you forever. I have the traditional horizontal scar that most C-section moms have, but inside it's vertical. And, I really had to make sure I healed, because that risk of tearing vertically like that, worrying that if I got too big with future pregnancies, or I did run the risk of contracting and pulling that, like that, there could be bigger problems down the road. It's really scary. And we were all about the safety of the baby at that point, and that was the safest way for him to come out.
Wow. A remarkable decision for a mother to make. I just want to be able to acknowledge that. So you guys were getting different answers from MFMs. I mean, most of the time what I hear is 18 months between pregnancies. So that checks out for sure.
And it helped that doctors were saying that I knew I had to deliver between 36 and 37 weeks. So they were like, you're saving a few weeks there by getting too big, that if you wanted to wait 18 months, we could do that. So we waited until the new year, basically, and had a lot of talks about it. And the fear is just huge. And the unknown, like, we both knew, like, we couldn't do this again. Like, this was the hardest thing we've ever had to do. And going through that again was just not something we wanted to even entertain. But I knew that I couldn't not be a mom. Like, I would be more sad not having a child on earth to mother than I would to be so scared to do this. So we just figured, let's try. I also, this is again not like me at all, but I did a virtual psychic medium reading. My friend has done them. She loves them. And I was like, I have nothing to lose at this point. I mean, this woman could totally squash any hopes of mine, but I'm just going to hope we don't get that. And it was really cool, because it was just like a Google form, basically. And you just typed in 2 questions, and there was no, like, she didn't get to see me or ask leading questions. Like, I felt a little more like this was authentic, I guess. And she actually said that I would become pregnant between February and April. And I got pregnant in March. And then I would have a Sagittarius. And his due date was December 5th, which is Sagittarius. But I delivered early. So he's not a Sagittarius, but it just felt lined up. She did say it would be a girl, so it wasn't, but it gave me a little more hope than I realized I needed.
Honestly, there's so many women that are listening to this right now going and nodding their heads, because like post-loss, I think we do things that we never thought we would do, and we grasp onto things just for that hope. So it makes total and complete sense. I saw a medium as well, and I never saw one before, but yeah, being a lost mom and losing your baby makes you do things, right?
It gave me hope, then, like, this happiness, and especially the girl piece. She said there was a baby, wasn't ready, but this little girl wasn't ready to come. And I'd always said that, like, I thought our first baby needed to be a boy. I thought it would help ease a little bit of some of that new parenthood. But I always wanted a girl, and my grandmother had just passed, and I was like, this is mother coming to us. And it was so much hope. Like, it made me excited as I could be.
I'm so glad you got that.
Me too.
While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven, my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. This isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed community program that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, an experienced doula and fellow lost mom, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course, Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other PAL mothers, a place where you can be real, be held, and be reminded that you are not alone in this. Our winter cohort begins this January, and the waitlist is now open. You can find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/haven. In the Haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way. So what did it look like when you guys found out? Did you start to actively try? What did that look like? And what did it look like when you found out you were pregnant?
I tried really hard to not try. I was aware of what was going on with my body, but I didn't want it to be, I didn't want to add more stress to an already stressful situation.
Sure.
I was having a hard time having a regular period after being pregnant too. So it was really hard. And the month before I had even found out, my period was super, super late, but I wasn't pregnant. I asked the doctor to just run tests. I was like, at this point, I've always been regular. Now I'm not. Could there be something more going on? I wanted to dress before I get pregnant again. Again, just I'm off. Here's my arms. Poke and prod. Do what you need to do. Let's get some answers. And that was all normal. So when I finally got pregnant, it was really a surprise. That meme of the man going back and forth with his eyes darting, that's how I felt. It felt just surreal to finally get this again. But the initial shock wore off really quick to just pure fear. When I finally told him he had been out of town, and it wasn't the first time. There was nothing cute about it. It was just, let me show you this. And I just started crying, and I hadn't let myself cry until that point. And he was so reassuring, so positive. And I was just so scared because as much as it wasn't you, as the mother, you do hold that guilt. And I know, logically, I know that I didn't do anything. And everybody has told me it's not my fault. You can't feel guilty, all this stuff. But when you're the one carrying that baby, you're the only one responsible for it. It's really hard not to. And you just immediately feel that pressure. So then to see him relieved or happy, you don't really know how they take it at first, but he was so supportive. And I just felt like I can't let him down again. I can't let family down. A lot of that guilt that I'd been working on really resurfaced along with the fear.
Mm-hmm. Of course it did. Of course. So what did that pregnancy, obviously it was a very different pregnancy. Like you already said, it was a very fearful pregnancy.
Yes.
What did that journey look like for you guys?
So much monitoring.
I bet.
So I found out I was pregnant the week of Miles' birthday, which really felt like such a gift from Miles that he was on his first birthday. He was giving us a sibling. And leading up to that, I had reached out to my OB and I just said that I was feeling really anxious with the upcoming milestones, and could I just come in for an appointment just to get checked out? I knew nothing at the time of this appointment. Or when I made the appointment, but I just wanted somebody to lay eyes on me and get some baseline. And it felt comforting to be in the presence of people that had been there through something so traumatic. So my shock of going to that appointment and telling the nurse, actually, can I take a pregnancy test before this appointment? And she was like, I thought you were just here for a consult. And I was like, yeah, but I think I might be pregnant. So right from the start, we were being seen. And it was so helpful. I didn't know you could kind of pick your own MFM, if you will. And And I know that's not the case for everybody, but my OB was very understanding that I couldn't go back to the hospital for as many MFM appointments as I needed. That trauma of being escorted from an ultrasound room to labor and delivery, it will forever be ingrained in me. It's still kind of remarkable to me that we got back on those elevators to go deliver Theo because it was just so traumatic. So we had decided to do MFM with a different hospital, and she was open to doing whatever she needed to do to get all of that information. And she really helped get that ball rolling for us. So we were being seen every 2 weeks by somebody. So it was like 2 weeks, we would be at the MFM, 2 weeks later, OB, and keep going until probably the last few weeks where it was weekly. And that was so reassuring. It also was so helpful that before I had gotten pregnant, I had gone to this OB and I said, if I'm going to be pregnant again with your practice, I would need just you. I understand why typically women go and have to try to see every doctor before delivery, but I feel like something got lost in the cracks last time, and I need one point person. And she was absolutely on board with that. And, you know, it was helpful knowing I'd have a scheduled delivery. And so that made a big difference to have one OB and to have a fresh start of an MFM. And we just did the best we could with those appointments. And then, you know, at home, tried to navigate it all. The second I felt myself getting excited, I felt like I had to rein myself back in. And I wanted to do some things differently. Like I never got a single picture with my bump last time, mostly because he was so small. I did not have a bump. And I wanted to force myself to take some of those pictures. I wanted some of that normalcy, but then I also would like hide from it and wear loose fitting clothing and only tell people that had to be told, basically, because I just needed to protect myself.
It's such a pull, right? It's like this like desire, deep desire, because it's what you deserve to have a joyous, normal pregnancy. And then there's that but, and you're like, it's constantly pulling you back into that place where you question yourself and are you allowed to feel this happy, or should you feel this happy? Do we really want to allow ourselves to go there? It's a lot.
Yeah, allowing yourself to go there for sure.
Now, how did you best like support yourself in your pregnancy just with all these feelings and fears? And
a lot of therapy. The people I chose to tell were people I trusted more than anything. And I felt like I could go to them and be honest. You know, so many people are quick to ask you, how are you feeling? And you have to do a really quick survey of like, do I trust this person, or what can I say? And I really appreciated having those people that I could go to and be like, I'm so terrified for tomorrow. Or, yeah, today we let ourselves like buy a crib. But those people were really hard to feel comfortable with. And I think it's because people naturally are just excited for you. That's just, you see somebody who's pregnant, you're excited, and you want them to be excited.
Yeah, to them, someone being pregnant means a baby's coming, right?
And to you, you know that that's not a guarantee.
Well, you've never actually lived anything different.
Right. So a lot of times when I told people, it was with cautious excitement. I'm sharing this. And I kept saying cautiously excited to share. And I made sure I kept the way I told people, the way I kind of wanted it back. And most people really did mirror that. And that was really helpful. I had a lot of lists and planning when I felt like I was ready. A lot of the stuff I had started to do with Miles, I'd let myself get to that point. You know, you're more than halfway through a pregnancy. You probably should start collecting a couple of things. So I'd had that, and I've always wanted to be a mom. Like, I would follow like baby accounts just because I was curious what the next greatest stroller was. So I was trying to keep those lists in mind. And it was so, you thought you might have a boost one day and you just couldn't do it another day. And I kept waiting. I really thought there was going to be this point where I could breathe. I know people get to 13 weeks and they're like, okay, I'm in the clear. But 13 weeks brought the nuchal. And then 20, you're halfway through, or, 18 for me was halfway through. But I was like, I was halfway through last time. That doesn't count. And then 24, I was like, well, that's when he came. That actually was probably the hardest milestone, because at 24 weeks to see this healthy, growing, over a pound baby, it was such a gut wrench that, like, so my body can do it. My body can get to 24 weeks and grow a baby that's measuring to 24 weeks. Why couldn't I do this before?
And then everything after that is new territory,
Yes.
right? And that brings its own complexity.
Right. I think for me, the biggest complexity was having to bring it into the school environment. And that's when I could not hide anymore. For Miles, I had told teachers and staff that I was pregnant in February, but I wasn't showing. So I was able to hide it from my students. And I wanted to keep hiding it because I just kept feeling like there was a but. And I had a coworker, friend of mine, who made a multiplication thing, you crack the code. And I actually had that laying out for the Monday after April break. That's when they were going to find out I was pregnant. So I never got to that point at school. And as a teacher, like, school is your life. Like, it's not hiding behind a computer all day type job. Like, those people become your community. And the way they rallied around me after Miles is something I will forever be grateful for. The way they protected my students, because I didn't want third graders to know that this can happen. And they really honored that. And just, it was that I had to be out on leave. And, I was so appreciative of that once I was going back to school after summer break, like, this couldn't be hidden anymore. And that was such a different level of complexity. It was just about in my third trimester when school started, and I went to tell my principal and tell my team. Like, I had only told the secretary and my best friend at school because I knew that if something had happened at school, I needed somebody to know and to be taking care of me. And those were the two best people to do for the job. So I really just started sending out the text before convocation, and I didn't want to just walk in with a belly and be bombarded. But that's when the complexity hit.
Texting too is just such a safer way, right? Because you're not getting those big emotional reactions right in your face. It's like,
Right.
I'm giving them this, and like, I can choose if I want to open up their response or not. I can delete it if I like start reading it and it's not what I want to hear. I'm like, okay, bye. It's a way easier way to.
It was so perfect because I was able to really control the narrative and allow them to see that, like, we're handling this with cautious excitement. We're doing a lot of frequent checks. Baby is okay. I am okay. I was really able to be very cut and dry with it. And I knew that there would be a lot of emotion telling these people that had my back. I was out from April to June unexpectedly. So the way my team had to step up, everybody in the building, I needed a little of that control and the appreciation for them for all that they've done. But school was that added level of complexity. I was able to hide all summer in my little bubble. People I wanted to know knew, and no kids were involved. I was really, really nervous to bring this to a student setting because I just know what can happen. And I don't want that to come from me. Their families, they might have experienced miscarriages and other devastating traumatic things, but I didn't want that to be coming from their teacher. So when school hit, that was really when I was like, well, there's no going back. So buckle down. I started doing like leaving weekly notes for Josh where I would have like the picture of whatever fruit the baby was. And it would say like, hi, I'm the size of this. And this weekend, mommy really wants to wash my laundry. And so to kind of start doing a little of those nesting tasks and help with some of that excitement for both of us. I know he really appreciated it. And it was nice to kind of be cutesy and fun with it because I feel like we were not, or I was not at least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what did the very end look like? So obviously you had a planned cesarean.
Yeah.
And you guys chose a date. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we were given the week, the week
like we want you to
36
deliver
and 37, and the doctor was like, how about November 8th? And I was like, oh, let's let the baby cook a little longer. Like that was the beginning of 36. And she was like, how about November 12th? And April 12th is Miles' birthday. So the 12 just felt fitting. And I was like, let's do it. And it couldn't have been a better like wrap up at school. Friday was my last day. Took Monday off. We were in the hospital on Tuesday. I ended up very, very, very last minute booking a maternity shoot. It's something I'd been thinking about. I had told him for my birthday in September, I was like, that's what I'd really like you to gift me is like this maternity shoot, but I couldn't do it. 2 month difference just seemed too much for me. A coworker at my school, his wife is a photographer. So I reached out very last minute. She came the 10th, like the Sunday, I think we did it. And she came to the house because we planted a tree for Miles and I just wanted the two of us and the tree. Well, I guess the belly too and the tree. So she came to the house and it was such a special, it was 15 minutes. I was like, I can't do like a shoot. Again, we're not photo people. We've never done anything like this, but I wanted these for forever. And it was so, so amazing. I'm so glad we did that, to have those pictures of the belly and the tree. And that was the part of a pregnancy I would have wanted from the beginning. And I didn't let myself think I could get there, and we got there. So it was a nice way to kind of wrap this up.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So November 12th. Scorpio.
The day of Miles' birthday.
So what did that day look like for you guys?
We had the first C-section time slot of the day. So it was up and at 'em early. We originally had like a mid-morning one, and my doctor was like, do you want to come in early? And I was like, yeah. Like, what are we going to do sitting at home just
that was a good decision,
twiddling our thumbs? So we were so packed, ready to go, but it was that you're shaking the whole time, that whole drive. And we knew that this was going to be different just because we knew what we were getting into. We had all of our appointments with the same doctor, and the last appointment happened to be with the doctor that was part of our delivery. And I'm so glad it was, because she came into the appointment and, at that point you're used to hop on the scale. Do you have any questions? Listen to the baby. But she pulled out a stool and was like, so let's talk about your delivery. And I was just so surprised by that, because I was like, it's a C-section. Like, I don't feel like I had a chance to think about it. I just wanted that baby out. Like, that's all I cared about. That was my one focus. I never even put any thought into a birth plan or anything. My plan was, this baby needs to be here safely. I need to hear him breathe. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, what room do you want to be in? And we kind of like looked at each other like, what do you mean, what room? And she's like, well, I imagine it might be kind of traumatic to go back into the same operating room as last time, but there's 2 rooms. Like, would you want to be in the other room? And I was like, I don't I don't remember anything about that day. Like, nothing in that room is memorable to me. So I kind of deferred to Josh, and he was like, yeah, no, that would be great. Like, not something we ever thought we could have asked for. And then she had asked about skin to skin, and I didn't know you could do skin to skin for a C-section. I guess I probably should have looked into that more, but my heart was just all about getting him out. And because even though I've seen other people's C-section experiences, my only experience is baby gets taken away into another nearby room. So I really didn't know there was that option. And I was like, well, yeah, I would love that. And she's like, okay, I'm going to make sure I get you specific nurses that will allow that, because not every nurse is comfortable with that. And she asked a couple of other questions, but she created this birth plan for us that I didn't even know we needed or I wanted. And that really helped set the tone for November 12th, because I knew we weren't going into any of the rooms we'd been in, even down to the labor and delivery room. Like, we walked in and we took a left instead of walking straight. And so I just felt so taken care of, so taken care of. And get strapped in, and I actually thought to like record the monitor, the heartbeat gallop, because just things I didn't think about the first time. I didn't have time to think about it, but things I knew I might miss. And it felt like a pretty calm experience. You know, there's like an IV mishap and whatever, but everything seemed so small to me, because I just had my eye on like, we're getting this baby here. Like, he is coming. And then they said, okay, it's time to walk. And I broke down. I was like, I can't walk this walk again. Like, to me, I associate it with this walk of shame. And I couldn't do it. I felt like I'd been so strong. I got on that elevator. We checked in, like, things were fine. It just made it so real. It brought everything back. And I was like, I can't. And they let Josh walk with us, which was so amazing. And then it was just such a different experience. They're, what music do you want to? And they're asking like what our holiday plans are. And I'm just like, don't you have like a job to do? Because it was so to business last time. There was no niceties about it. It was like, we're getting this baby out as quick as we can. And then he came out. They said he's here, and I'm waiting for this cry. And I had prepared myself that like C-section babies don't cry right away every time. So I'm waiting, and then you hear this cry, and he just gets lifted up over the curtain. And it was just, I've never cried like that. Just such relief and such happiness. And amazement, because he was 4 weeks old and he was 6 pounds, 14 ounces. And I was like, 4 more weeks, how big would you have been? Like, you're ready. Like, you're ready to be here. And it was just it was so amazing.
Yeah, I feel that with you. So beautiful. So your baby's here. You hear them cry. What did life look like postpartum? Like, what was it like to finally bring your baby home, finally step into that, earthly mother role that you've always wanted? You've always wanted this. So what was that like for you?
It was better than I could have thought, in so many ways, because everything just felt like such a gift. There was never a tit for tat about diapers being changed or bottles being washed. Like, everything felt like such a gift. I get to do this, and I will get up every single time to do this. We chose bottle feeding. I chose bottle feeding. I was really concerned about postpartum depression, anxiety, and I didn't want to add a layer to that. I get very overwhelmed very easily, and I just didn't want to do that. And I was set on bottles, and at one point Josh was like, we did bottles, so like I can get up in the middle of the night too. And I was like, but I don't even realize that I'm really doing it. It just feels so special to be up and to see that little face. And it was just it was everything I wanted. And it was real. And it was in this house. It wasn't a story I've made up in my mind. It wasn't videos I've watched or heard other people's experiences. Like, this was real. This was finally real. And I remember getting home from the hospital with Miles and standing at the foot of the stairs and looking up, and just those stairs seemed like Everest at the time, like getting up there, knowing I was going to turn left. And my mom had removed the crib before we came home, but just to look into an empty room, it seemed so daunting. And to get home that first night, I couldn't wait to get upstairs. I was just ecstatic to be redoing some of these steps in a positive way. Like, that part more seemed redemptive for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't realize, though, that they say the first year after loss is one of the hardest years, all those first milestones, but I'm only 8 months in, and it seems like this first year of a baby after a loss might be even harder in a lot of ways, because you're looking at this baby and thinking about your other baby. The night before Miles' second birthday, I was rocking Theo and just looking at him like, I should be doing this with your brother. And at the same time, like, you should be celebrating your brother's birthday, like, with him. His first Thanksgiving, thinking about what it would be like with Miles, and just that awareness of this is what it could have been like and what it should have been like.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to do this, but I don't get to do this with Miles. And I think you become so much more aware of those events, and you also become more aware of words. No, words, I've always known words really matter, but you hear people talk about how big your baby's getting. Oh, he's so big. And it's so triggering for me in a way I would never have expected. It's completely changed the way I talk about other people's babies now, because big is sad. Big means, like, no one ever said that about Miles. Nobody ever got to see Miles get big, but we're constantly commenting on how big Theo gets. People are thinking about what next summer will be like. And I'm like, no, right now, this summer, like, I didn't even think I would be here. And it just makes you so much more aware of living in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not that person. I am a go, 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 go type person constantly. I'm
Planner.
always so far in advance that this is so out of norm for me. But I just am so in the moment, and every moment matters so much more. I don't like to be away from him, and I like to think it's not that, like, first time mom doesn't want to walk away thing. It's just these moments are things I feel like are so delayed, and they're made so much more special now.
Mm-hmm. So precious. It sounds like Miles really taught you a valuable lesson. I would love to hear, like, how he's changed you as a mother, because it sounds like you are a very ever-present mother. And when you said, I don't want people thinking this is like first-time mom things. No, this is just like a new appreciation for right here and right now. And especially knowing that it just makes you appreciate, I think, like, lost moms just have this, like, deep appreciation for what they have, because they have had that taken away before.
Yeah, I think from the jump, like, the school year right after I went back after Miles, multiple people had even commented on how different I seemed, because things that used to matter just don't. Like, you really start to see what matters. I was never a touchy-feely person at all. I even had given a book about, like, we don't need hugs to, like, a friend as a joke. Like, it's just wasn't that person. And they say, like, you get, like, the moms that need to slow down the most get, like, the snuggliest babies. And it's just, I know that Theo was given from Miles. You know, Theo means a gift from God. And I also like to think it's a gift from Miles. Miles gave us this brother. And Miles has just allowed me to be in the moment and kind of bring forward a lot of parts about me that I didn't realize were so important to me, like books. I love books. We read to him in the NICU, and it was, again, one of those tasks that felt like, okay, I get to be a mom. Like, this is what moms do. They read books to their babies. And I just became obsessed with books. My first birthday after Miles, like, I didn't want anything. The one thing I wanted, I couldn't have. So no, I don't want anything materialistic. And I just asked for board book donations, and we did a big donation to the NICU so parents could have books. My friend made these great labels, and I just really found the value in, I guess, like bibliotherapy. I found out after that there's a local organization, and she's putting these space out bookshelves with loss specific books in them for parents to have and hold and remember their child. And that power of like literature has really stood out to me. And
Well, you said words are so important, right?
they're so important. They're so, so important. And just because I know what I previously lost, like, everything matters. It's hard not to think about all those firsts that are coming that Miles never got, like Theo's first day of kindergarten, or Theo's graduation, or his, a mother-son dance at a wedding. Like, those are things I will never get with Miles. And Theo is just, he's not a replacement. And I think so many people are quick to either worry that you're doing that or think that you're doing that. And he is not at all. But I wouldn't be human if I wasn't thinking about how these things should have played out with Miles. So it's just, all of those moments matter. The smallest moments, walking to the center of town for a festival with him strapped to my chest, like, these are my dreams coming true. And this is also just a final piece of all of this, is that I finally do get to do this. And I know that Miles is always with me. I spent a lot of time thinking about how I wanted to, like, always carry Miles with me. And I know he is always in my heart, but I needed that, like, physical piece, especially immediately after. Like, I felt very touchy and I needed that, like, touch. And I got like a necklace with his birth month flowers on it. And it's just, I wear it. I'd never take it off. I just feel like I have Theo in my arms and Miles on my neck, and obviously both of them in my heart. And it's just so, so powerful to know that they're always there with me, both of my boys.
They are. Mom of two, always.
Of two. And I think, figuring out how to honor him with Theo is kind of that next step in this process. And I know we have time, but it's a narrative I want to make sure we're really thoughtful and constructing. I don't want it to go to kindergarten and bring up this story to other 5-year-olds and shatter their innocence. And I don't want him to feel in a shadow. I think even just using the superlative words, like, you're the cutest, you're the best. And those hurt me to say sometimes, because I don't, he's not, like, I mean, he's incredible, and
but you have two babies
in the world.
Yeah.
You don't want to ever compare your children like that. And I do feel like that. So when I'm saying those superlatives, I catch myself sometimes. And it's no different than when you catch yourself when you're pregnant and somebody asks, is this your first? And again, depending on who you're talking to some people I had to say yeah, because I couldn't get into it. But then you're instantly, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Mel. I was like, no, like, please don't think that. So those words, again, that seems to be the theme, but being aware of those words in that story for Theo as well, because he does play a role in this. And I just want to make sure that his brother's story isn't his story, but that he knows something about Miles.
Well, it's going to be a huge part of his story, because his brother is a huge part of his story. Right. It's what helped, ultimately what brought him here, right? Yes. So, yeah, well, that's beautiful. And like Miles taught you about staying in the present. It's the same thing with Theo too, right? Like we'll cross that bridge when we get there
Yes.
because it's a whole other era. And I'm nodding my head with you because I know it's coming up in our life too, because, soon the babies are going to ask questions. And this is our role as moms, is to kind of lead them in this next little journey, right? About
Right.
understanding their family and their sibling. And
Yeah. And in a developmentally appropriate way. Like when he's a lot older, him and his wife are about to have a baby, like really sharing this story. But it's really important, I think, that kids are taught things at an age that is appropriate to them.
totally.
And I know sometimes kids grow up too fast. And especially in this day and age, like I want him to be a kid as long as he can.
Okay. Before we close off, if you could go back and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing that I would tell myself, and that if anybody was going through this, that I really would want to tell them, is that you don't owe anything to anybody. I really tried to do that for myself, but it was really hard, and the guilt came up for not living up to other people's expectations about what a pregnancy should be like. And I just wish I could look at somebody and tell them that you do not owe anybody anything. You have to do what is right for you in pregnancy. And now I'm learning too as a mother, but you don't have to have a baby shower. You don't have to do a gender reveal. You don't have to do anything that makes you uncomfortable. And there are enough things that you're going to have to navigate during PAL that you are uncomfortable with, but you have to do it anyways. So some of the extra things that, society kind of makes it seem like are must-dos, you don't owe anybody that. You really have to just do what is best for you. And I wish that there was more of an emphasis on that. I wish some of those newsletters that you sign up for to find out more about your baby weekly, I wish when you're signing up, there was an option to click PAL, because I think that those need to be there. Those newsletters need to be tailored in different ways. Like, you want to be a quote unquote normal pregnant woman who is excited to find out about their little squash, but you don't need the next article to be about what you have to put on a registry. Like, your next article needs to be, what are the 3 things you have to have at home in order to bring a baby home? Because you really only need a few things initially.
You don't even need a nursery.
No,
why are we paying attention to nursery?
Yeah.
What about maternal mental health? I think that is more important than a nursery. That is more important than a baby shower even. It's really important to celebrate your pregnancy, but that looks different for everybody. And I think you bring up a really good point. And I would also add to that there's no rules. It really is up to you of how you want your pregnancy to go. And people pleasing, this isn't a time for people pleasing, right?
No. Honestly, it's not even about your partner either, because you're the one growing this baby inside of you. It's your mental health, and they're going through their own trauma with this pregnancy as it brings up all of the things from the last.
Sure.
But it is different, and you need to protect yourself first and foremost, because then you're protecting your child.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, Laurel, I think that's a great way to end it. I just want to thank you so much for being here and sharing your story of your boys and sharing your motherhood with us. I could tell right away, you're just such a lovable person and a beautiful mother. And I know there's so many women that are listening to this and, like I said, nodding away, because you said so many things that I think are going to really resonate with a lot of women, and a lot of women are going to feel seen and validated through listening to you today. So I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing.
Thank you. I hope so, because these are stories you wish you heard while you were pregnant, that you're not alone in these feelings. You can't. When you're pregnant, you're Googling, is it normal that I'm up 3 times to pee? But you can't Google, is it normal that I'm terrified of an ultrasound, or that I don't want a baby shower? So it's nice to hear other people tell you it is normal, because whatever works for you is normal.
Totally. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this episode touched your heart, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to rate and review the Rainbow Connection. Your words help this podcast reach other mothers who need to hear these stories, the ones still searching for hope, for comfort, and for connection after loss. Every review, every star, every kind word truly makes a difference. Thank you for helping me keep these stories alive. I'll see you in the next episode.